Welcome to Seahawks Draft Blog live stream. Only myself here today. No Adam, no Robbie. So it's a solo mission. I've got to be honest, I've been feeling really ill for the last couple of days. So I don't know how long I'm going to do this for. But get your questions in, get them in via Super Chat, and I will go through every single one of those. What are your thoughts on the game? If you want to leave a thought, Super Chat away. I'll put it up on the screen. If you've got any questions, far away, and I will try and get through as many of those as possible while we're on the live streaming. In fact, if you keep sending them in, that's how long I'll basically stay on for, because I'm feeling a bit under the weather. But the one great thing is, as under the weather as I am feeling personally, that performance and win from the Seahawks really sort of energized me. I'm sure it energized you as well. I think when you watch that first drive for the Cardinals and they go down the field quite well and get a touchdown, you're sort of thinking, okay, what kind of a day is this going to be? And from that moment onwards, the Seahawks just took control of the game, completely took control of the game. And yeah, sure, you are very rarely going to go through a game of NFL football, especially one that was as important as this. The swings between chances of making the playoffs and not making the playoffs were so huge for both teams going into this game. So it was never realistic that the Seahawks were going to have a four-quarter saunter and just come out of the other end with a really relaxed, cigars out, chaps performance. There was going to be a moment in that second half where things got a little bit closer. Obviously, the Cardinals got an 8-point touchdown. They were driving again with the chance to close the gap to a one-score game, and they hit a field goal off the post. And the Seahawks then just marched down the field. Great drive. I mean, that is probably the most satisfying drive I've watched the Seahawks have in a long time, because it has been so long since they've just had a really time-consuming, brilliant, run-based drive to finish things off. And they pulled it out at the end, perfectly timed to have a drive like that. And look, for weeks and weeks, I've been talking about the running game. To finish the game off running, and some good passes from Geno Smith as well, some time routes to get open and to give the quarterback an option, some good pass protection there to get that drive done, I think was absolutely fantastic. So there are so many positives to talk about in this game, and we will run through it together for the next few moments. I've already seen super chats coming in, so keep those coming in. And one of the first ones is about the draft. Post-conference championship. So if you do have any draft questions or college football questions as well, happy to answer those as well while we're on here. So let's run through it. First of all, I think the defensive performance again was absolutely superb. To bottle up the Cardinals the way that they did and to limit the big opportunities, I think was great. Sure, it wasn't another 7 rushes for 8 yards performance from James Conner, but they held him under 100 yards on nearly 20 carries. 121 rushing yards when you have a scrambling quarterback as good as Kyler Murray and a physical tone-setting running back like James Conner, who's well supported by Trey Benson. I think 121 yards is a decent effort. No rushing touchdowns given up. Trey McBride was not the X factor that he was in the last game. He had some garbage time yards at the end, which boosted his numbers. He was on something like 4 catches for 40 yards before that final drive when they got a load of garbage time yards. This was not a game with huge sacks and moments from like Leonard Williams just blowing up the line of scrimmage or the edge rushers getting after it. They had a couple of sacks, the Rayshon Jenkins one that ended the game, and the Jonathan Hankins one that was also heavily influenced by Boye Mafe. But apart from that, it wasn't that kind of game where you just dominate the line of scrimmage. I don't think the Cardinals let the Seahawks do that, because the problem for the Cardinals in the last few weeks has been that their pressure percentage has gone way beyond 30%. Kyler Murray has been turning the ball over at a tremendous rate. He's really struggled as a consequence of the pressure being so high. And I think the Cardinals just came into this game saying that can't be the case in this game. They'll have watched Leonard Williams in the last 2 weeks and they thought, we're not going to let him win another game for the Seahawks. So I think it's probably to the Cardinals' credit, really, that the Seahawks didn't blow the game up at the line of scrimmage. So if the opponent is not going to let you do that, you have to win in other ways. That's being physical on the edges at cornerback. I thought the cornerbacks played very, very well today. They were very competitive in coverage, sticky in coverage. When they needed to go and get a hand in there, they did. They tackled with a ferocity that was really good to see. It was a very strong performance from the defensive backs in terms of their coverage and tackling. I thought the 2 linebackers were incredible. I thought Tyrese Knight had the kind of performance that, I'll happily admit, I didn't think he had it in him in his rookie season to have. He just seemed to always be there, whenever an opponent got towards the second level or near the second level, Tyrese Knight was there to make a play. And his tackling was good. He was forceful. He was aggressive. That is what I want to see at linebacker. I want to see players who are physical and tough and aggressive, who hit people and leave a mark. I thought Tyrese Knight did that time and time again today. Ernest Jones equally got an interception, roamed the field, did a great job sort of flying to the sideline when they needed him to. I think the two linebackers were excellent again. The defense has played excellent football now for, what is it, like 5 games in a row? So it stops being just a nice, it's a nice improvement to actually being, I think this defense is here. This is what we all wanted. This is why many of us were championing for a change of coach at the end of last season, because we wanted to see a defense that could play this way. And we have that now. So I think it's all power to Mike McDonald, to Adam Durdy, in order to get this defense playing the way that they are. And that was incredibly impressive by the Seahawks. And I think a big reason why they won today. Like I say, they're going to give up some yards. They were going to have some moments where they had to dig in. But you hold the Cardinals to a field goal attempt that they miss. You sack them at the end so they don't get the garbage time touchdown. You prevent them from getting more than 18 points. I'm looking at some of the statistics. The Cardinals were only 4 of 12 on third down. That's a really good day. 356 yards for an offense that has got Murray, Connor, McBride, Harrison. That's a decent day's effort from your defense yet again. And it set the table for the offense and the way that they played. So let's talk about the offense then. I thought the offense were so impressive in that first half. Ryan Grubb has had a lot of criticism. I have criticized him on a couple of streams. Other people have criticized him, and I think that was fair. But to his credit today, he had a much better plan. For example, last week we were talking about the lack of creativity in the red zone, a fade, runs up the gut, spider Y2 banana, stuff like that. The Charbonnet touchdown, I think it was the first Charbonnet touchdown where, you can't run up the middle, so you have him sort of running across the field and sort of attack that way, going left, I think was very creative. It worked. So well done to them for that. Geno Smith's first touchdown, like the way that was designed. The first touchdown of the game for the Seahawks after the turnover, immediately after that. So I thought there were some really good things in there. They ran the ball so much better than they have, I think, at any point this season in this game. This was really, really good. A really strong running performance. The Seahawks looked more physical up front. And, it's so enjoyable to say that. Look, I get that the offensive line still has a lot of work that it needs doing. There needs to be a lot more from this offensive line, and they're going to have to make improvements. But today, I felt, without being unbelievable, they won the line of scrimmage against Arizona's defensive line. And that, as a consequence, enabled Seattle to run the ball for, just check in, 176 yards. What a rushing performance. If you'd have said to me this week, what's the one thing you'd like to see more than anything, apart from another 92-yard interception return for Leonard Williams, it would be a strong running performance where they get the kind of yardage they did today. 176 yards. And you know what? I think this is, to build on that, the thing that really pleased me the most to see Zach Charbonnet running the way that he did. As someone who was a huge Zach Charbonnet fan when he was at UCLA and spent 2 years saying, this guy runs like a Seahawk. This guy's got everything that the Seahawks look for at running back. And for them to take him in the second round and to be one of the few people who went, I get it. I think that's the value. I think that is a good player that you were getting in the second round. Positional value, having taken Ken Walker the year before, I understand why people critique that, but he's a really good player. And we just haven't seen enough of that this year. Zach Charbonnet, when he gets his chances, has not taken them. Well, today was a huge, big chance. Go out there and show that you belong in the NFL. And he took that chance. He was really, really good. Not just let's have a look at his rushing yardage was 134 yards and 22 carries, 2 rushing touchdowns, a 51-yarder, which obviously, all fantastic. But to then add 7 catches for 59 yards as well, that's a match-winning performance for a running back. So I think really great to see from Zach Charbonnet. And again, credit to Ryan Grubb and the offensive scheming for setting up a game plan that enabled them to do that. Because they haven't been able to run the ball well at all for weeks, and here they were putting on a show. Another great performance from Jackson Smith-Njigba, who has officially landed as one of the better receivers in the NFL. 82 yards, 5 receptions, and a touchdown. Also had 1 rush for 4 yards. He did have that weird fumble thing going on in the second half, but we'll quickly move on from that. Yeah, I thought it was really good. And then Geno Smith. I thought the discipline shown by Geno Smith was the main highlight from his point of view today. He seemed, I don't know if you all sort of felt this way, it seemed to me like he was much more prepared today to take a check down. You know, to sort of feel what is there, not force things, take a check down, and for whatever reason, Arizona were totally unprepared for the number of checkdowns the Seahawks were going to throw, and it was free yardage every single time. And look, as a quarterback with a big arm, I can only imagine what it's like when you sort of drop back there and you think, I can fit this in. I can fit this pass in 20, 30 yards downfield, even further. But I'm not sure. Hey, look, Zach Charbonnet's open. I'll check it down. I thought that was good. He didn't take any back-breaking sacks. He didn't make any mistakes. He didn't have some of the wow highlight plays that he has been having at the start of the year, but he doesn't need to do that every week. You know, sometimes you have just got to get the ball to the man who is open and take what is given. And that is what Geno Smith did today. And if he continues to play this way, it's complementary football. It is, in fairness, the kind of football that Pete Carroll always wanted to play. And they can win a lot of football games. So I'd say more of the same. Like, I don't think you're going to be able to play that kind of a game plan every week, because now the Packers will have a look and they'll say, look, Seattle's prepared to check it down. But sometimes, you know, Geno perhaps could have done that in other games. You know, take what is there, live to play another down, move the ball when you can. And I think he did that. And it's to his credit that he showed that discipline when in other games he may well have thought, I'm going to try this. I'm going to throw this downfield. And he had the discipline to do that. And it was, again, another match-winning performance because he was able to manage the game like the Seahawks need their veteran quarterback to manage the game. So, I've pretty much gone through every aspect of the team there. If there's anything you think I've missed, send me a super chat and I will get to it. It was good to see Jalen Darden not fumble the ball at any point. I think he nearly fumbled, didn't he? But he was already down on the kick returns, so that was good. Good to see Michael Dixon punting despite his back injury. How crazy was it that a week after all that happened and there was the prospect of Jason Myers punting against the Jets, that Arizona ended up in the exact same situation where Chad Ryland was having to punt instead of Blake Gillikin. Did that have an impact on Chad Ryland missing that field goal late on? I mean, maybe his head might have been a little bit scrambled by that point, so it could have had an impact there. So overall, the Seahawks get the win. They moved to 8-5. The Cardinals moved to 6-7. As I mentioned at the start, I think Aaron Schatz had this stat whereby, like, if the Seahawks won, their playoff odds were 60-odd%, and if they lost, they were like 11%. I mean, that was like a 54% swing, I think it was. I think I made the calculation earlier from winning and losing, whether they make the playoffs. And it was pretty much the same for the Cardinals. So you had to win this game. You had to win this game if you wanted to make the playoffs. They have won the game. The only slight disappointment is that the Bills lost to the Rams. I have not seen any of this game because I was obviously watching the Seahawks, but also was doing the national broadcast for the radio here of the Seahawks-Arizona game. So I wasn't even watching Red Zone at half a glance or anything like that. So I have not seen any of that game, but it, by all accounts, seemed pretty crazy. What was it in the end? 44-42. So the Rams get a big win. Why is that significant? It's significant because if the Seahawks, if the Rams hadn't won, obviously the Seahawks would have had a 2-game advantage over the Rams. The Rams would still possess the tiebreaker, I think, because of the loss to the Rams. Now, it could be setting things up for a potential Week 18 NFC West Championship game. The Rams go to San Francisco next week. It's perhaps well timed from a Seahawks perspective that the Niners looked more like the Niners today against the Bears. So that's a big game for both teams. The Niners will be feeling like season's on the line next week. That's Thursday night football. Yeah, that's Thursday night football this week. Then they have a sort of the mini bye because the Thursday night football. They go to the Jets. Jets played tough today as they did last week. Maybe they're going to play tough in that game as well. But it's hard to sort of think the Jets are going to win any game at this point, even though they're playing hard. And then the Rams host Arizona and host Seattle. So it's not an easy run of 4 games to finish for the Rams, but it also could be harder. Their toughest game was arguably the one today against the Bills, and they've won it. I mean, this is still a Rams team that last week struggled to beat the Saints. Were quite handsomely beaten by the Eagles the week before. Didn't exactly convince against the Patriots before that and lost to the Dolphins. So then, I don't think people should overreact to the Bills winning. The Rams beating the Bills in this game. The Bills perhaps were due a game, an off day. And it seems that their defense in particular has had that one. They've given up 44 points. So I'm not too worried about that. The tough thing is we're now at that stage in the season where the Seahawks are 8-5, where you can't help but go back to that Rams game and think the Seahawks should have won that game. The Seahawks should have beaten the Rams, and if they had, 9-4, massive advantage over the Rams, both in sort of the record in the standings, but also the tiebreaker. So it's a shame. It's a shame that the Rams did not lose today, but I wouldn't overreact too much to that. Someone's put in the comments that the Seahawks should have beat the Giants. They should have beat the Giants because the Giants suck, but based on that performance, the Giants deserved to win that game. The Seahawks did not deserve to win that game. I think the Rams game is the one that's most egregious for me because the Seahawks should have won that game. They should have finished that game off, and they cocked it up with a stupid pick six and then a complete mess trying to get a yard in overtime, and then the defense giving up a touchdown drive. So that's sort of where I'd go with that. But anyway, that's for another day. Let's just carry on enjoying the Seahawks win. Right, let's get through some of these super chats. Thank you to everybody who sent them in. Keep them coming. Mike says, thanks for doing the show under the weather, Rob. Hope you get better. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Grubb made some improvements today, and that was huge. Really nice to see checkdowns and shorter developing plays. Excellent, Gino. Yeah, completely agree. If I'm going to criticize Ryan Grubb for a lack of creativity and not getting it right in the last few weeks, it's only fair that you give him credit. I think you're absolutely spot on there. The run game improvements, the checkdowns, the discipline of the quarterback, Geno Smith deserves a lot of credit for that. The coaching does as well because they'll send that message to him and he's delivered. I think it was all, the use of the tight ends today, I thought was a lot better. So and getting the offensive line into position where they can actually run the ball is not to be underestimated. So I think Grubb, Huff, Pete, everybody on that staff, big thumbs up. They deserve a lot of credit today. There's not going to be as much talk this week about his job. I still think whatever happens this year, that's going to be a question. I think it's more of a philosophical thing than necessarily a week to week. Let's determine whether Ryan Grubb deserves to stay. But if they keep playing like that on offense, then they're going to be heading in the right direction. Hawks fan Matt Mann says, did you see anything in particular from Satoa Lemea? 0 sacks on Geno today, so I'm hoping that bodes well for his performance. So there were a couple of plays where I did notice him, where he had a very physical block. There was another play where he pulled, I think. God, my mind's a blur because it's on the radio. I think there was a play where he pulled and he landed his block very, very well to spring a run. Whenever I watched him, generally I was pleased. There was one play where I thought he gave up pressure, which was very noticeable, which was an ugly block. So I would have to watch it again to sort of have an overall opinion on how he played. But my expectation is not that blockers, especially rookie blockers, pitch a shutout. You have to expect they're going to give up some pressures. They're going to make some mistakes. I would not surprise me if he did that today. I won't be surprised if he gets the typical 30 grade from PFF. I don't really understand the way their gradings work for offensive linemen sometime. Like if you're going to get a grade in the 20s like he did last week, I would suggest that in order to get a grade in the 20s, given that it goes all the way up to 100, you'd probably have to be sat on your backside for the whole game and you're just kind of flailing your arms, just trying to get in the way, like you're a traffic cone. So for him to get a grade as low as that, I don't really understand what constitutes a grade that low. So we'll see what he gets. But I thought, what you want is physicality, and you want some big blocks to get some big runs and not to get the quarterback killed. And that's what happened today. So I'm confident that it was an improvement on last week and that you crack on to the next game. Like, I don't think anybody played well today. Like Charles Cross had a penalty. Abe Lucas, I think, had a couple of penalties. The center, although Timmy had a penalty for a hold, which I just thought was a good block. Again, I have to watch it again. This is not an offensive line that is remotely close to being good. It's going to need some investment. The great thing is this is a draft class with interior offensive linemen that I like and think that we'll have an ample opportunity to get better there. And I'm pretty sure they'll look at the veteran market as well. So I'm optimistic for the future there. I know that there'll be a few people who disagree with that, but I'm optimistic that we'll get this right. I think the fact that they're able to run the ball today is a big positive sign. Thanks, Hawks fan Mattman, for that. JP Lester says, love this Mike Macdonald defense and JSN emerging. After reading your Drew Aller article, I can see John Schneider liking him. How do you feel about his performance against Oregon? Love the blog, Rob. Go Hawks. Thanks for the question, JP, and the super chat. I was impressed with Drew Aller. I wrote an article today, which is about Drew Aller and whether the Seahawks be interested in him. I don't want to ruin it too much. I want you to wait and check out SeahawksDraftBlog.com. It's a free blog, so no financial benefit for making you wait. But I just want you to read the article because I think I dig into sort of my thoughts on Drew Aller after the Oregon game. In some detail, some thoughts on how I think the Seahawks might approach the quarterback position in the draft, stuff like that that's coming up. So I would check that out. Sort of what I would say to give you a little bit of something for the super chat is that I thought this was the first game that I watched him that I thought, okay, the tools are being used properly here. Like there were some real throws, like some proper throws that, in fairness, the quarterbacks in the Arizona State, Iowa State, and the Texas Georgia game were not making. Where you see the zip off the arm, you see him driving the ball into tight layered windows, and you think, okay, yeah, you can work with that in the NFL. So he is big, he is athletic, he is with a strong arm. The Seahawks have a GM who seems to have been looking for all of those characteristics for a long time. So I think that was a good performance from Drew Aller. It was not flawless, as I mentioned in the article. I'll just leave that as a teaser for now, as to the article that I've written. We'll go into a lot more detail as to what I think the Seahawks are potentially going to do at quarterback in this offseason. So thank you, JP. Go and check that article out. When will it be up? Might publish it tomorrow. Might save it for Tuesday. It's probably more likely to be Tuesday because we've got the stream with Jeff tomorrow. So I want to keep that on the blog, on the front page. And then the Drew Aller thing might come out on Tuesday. Thank you for the super chat, though. Mark D, who is our $480 super chatter, if you're not aware of this, he accidentally sent a $480 super chat, which and I am more than happy to give him a free super chat every single week now as a consequence of this, because we could not cancel that amount. We tried to edit the 480 or get it cancelled. They wouldn't let us at YouTube. So free super chat away, Mark. He says, does it feel like Charbonnet is more explosive than Ken Walker? Well, I think they're both explosive. That's why the Seahawks, because they really focus on explosive running ability. That's tried and tested. We've talked about that a lot on the blog over the years. Explosive traits and prototype size are things the Seahawks have always focused on at the running back position. So I would say they're both explosive. I don't think Charbonnet is more explosive than Ken Walker. Ken Walker's, I think, more dynamic and quick. I think Charbonnet is more typical, typical running back, between the tackles, but has shown that he has got some dynamism to him as well. and he was a good pass catcher at UCLA. So I think it's a great 1-2 punch that has not been able to flourish because of the O-line and the play calling and stuff like that. So there is still time to make this right. I mean, like the dream is to get both of these two guys playing at a high level, dominating behind a good offensive line with creative play calling. You know, I am sick of all the Sonic and Knuckles stuff you see in Detroit, where their two running backs are just sort of running all over the place, winning everybody fantasy leagues, you know, having a great season again. And the Seahawks, you know, have two very different running backs to Montgomery and Gibbs, but could easily have a fantastic 1-2 punch themselves, and we never see it. So hopefully this is a step forward in the right direction. I think Charbonnet has shown that maybe if Ken Walker is carrying injuries, just go. I'd go with him again next week and let Ken Walker sort of let them flip the roles. You know, let Charbonnet have another chance to do what he did today against the Packers, and let Ken Walker be sort of the lightning in a bottle that you bring in and mix in there. Maybe that will work will work better for both, especially with Ken Walker coming back from injury. But you know, I think two very talented players that we get to see the best of either of them. And hopefully this is a step forward for both of those. Video Game Sports says Ryan Grubb might actually be okay. I mean, look, I think it's not even so much about Ryan Grubb. Like, Ryan Grubb has done some things wrong this year. He's done a lot right as well. I think what the decision is going to come down to is whether or not the head coach and the offensive coordinator he's never worked for before or worked with before are aligned in their vision for the offense. And that's probably what it's going to come down to. And we don't have to wait long to find out. It is December the 9th. Even if the Seahawks make the Super Bowl, that's February. It's not that far away. If they don't, then it'll be even sooner, and we'll find out what their plan is. And if there's anything wrong with consistency, by the way, and keeping the staff, if that's what they decide to do, I would have absolutely no problem with that. I just have an inkling that maybe there could be some changes to the staff. I think that's inevitable when you have a first-time head coach and you bring the staff together at the last minute. They're not familiar with each other. There's not that loyalty because coaches have worked together before that they feel like they're going to keep people on board. I think they will be quite ruthless and mix things around in the off-season. I'm intrigued to see what it's going to be, but I'm more intrigued with what's happening week to week at the minute because the Seahawks are playing very well at the minute and they've won 4 games in a row. Kay Sizzle says, how about the jet sweep at the goal line? Finally, yes. One of my favorite plays. Kay Sizzle, it was the creativity that was lacking last week was on show today. So really good to see that. Thank you for the super chats. Mike says, went to the game, easy. O-line was great. Could have wrapped it up sooner if the play called and had been more aggressive on offense. I mean, I think you make a fair point, Mike. I think the offense did kind of fall asleep for a little while in the second half. I think it's always a bit tough, you know, when you are attacking an opponent early in the game and you have some success and then they adjust. You know, it's very easy in that situation to say, okay, they've taken away this, this, and this. We're winning by 17, 14, 10 points, whatever it is. Let's run the ball. Opponent anticipates that as well. What do you do if you start being aggressive? Everyone's going to kill you because you're not burning the clock. You're not, you know, just having long drives, just kicking the ball straight back to them if it goes 3 and out. It is quite difficult in that situation to manage a lead unless you're just absolutely dominating every single play up front, which, you know, I don't think was going to happen today. So you do often see games where teams get into position like the Seahawks were today, and then the offense goes a bit cold. I think it would have been a massive problem if they'd have lost this game because the offense would have contributed a big way to that in the second half, but they didn't, because when they needed that final drive right at the end, long, sustained, aggressive, time-consuming drive, the offense delivered it. So I think that smashed away any criticism of that second half performance because they got the job done in the end. Okay, 2 more super chats for now. Keep them coming in. Jack M says, any draft thoughts post-conference championships? Well, I'll save my Druella thoughts again until the article on Tuesday. I thought it was more of the same from Texas. You know, they have become a streaky team who play well for halves, and they had a very good first half and then a terrible second half. I was really bored reading X Twitter on Saturday night because everything was just Quinn Ewers is to blame. Quinn Ewers is to blame. Quinn Ewers wasn't very good in that second half, but the defense couldn't stop Georgia with their backup quarterback, and the backup quarterback's not very good. The kicker missed 2 kicks. The receivers and tight ends were dropping the football all the time. So I think there was plenty of blame pie to go around for everybody at Texas. But what I will say for Quinn Ewers is he has not improved his stock at all this year. You know, for a player who came into the season with question marks about his health and his consistency, we're sat here today and we're still talking about health and inconsistent play from Quinn Ewers. He's small. He's not a big guy. He's not particularly mobile. He has got arm talent, but he also makes mistakes. He's thrown some bad interceptions. He does get a lot of balls tipped to the line. It's just becoming increasingly hard to separate natural talent and potential from what we're actually seeing week to week. So, again, I'll talk a bit more about that in the article that is in the Drew Aller. It's not just about Drew Aller. There's a lot of quarterback thoughts there. From Georgia's point of view, it looked like a bad injury for Carson Beck. I thought their offensive line played quite well. I think the right tackle for Texas, Cameron Williams, I have no idea why people are putting him in the first round. I just don't see it. Like, physically, he's there. Technique-wise, is absolutely shocking. I mean, he's like Jermaine Ifedi's bad younger brother right now, the way that he's playing. You cannot draft him into the first round. It'd be an absolute joke if any team drafts him. If you draft him in the first round, you ain't playing him in the first year. And he might as well just go out to Texas and learn how to actually play tackle position, because at the minute it's just not happening for him. So I can't believe that people put him in the first round. Is there any other thoughts that I had? Scalabo at Arizona State had a good game again, physical runner, but is he going to do that in the NFL? Not sure. Dylan Gabriel played well, but I don't think he's NFL. Josh Connolly, brilliant again, as per Oregon's running back, is very good. Says Johnson had a very good game. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I will get into more of the draft stuff in the week, but I think my main focus was Drew Aller from the weekend. Brandon says, do you see any way we pay DK as well as Geno on his current deal? So I think they will keep DK Metcalf, because I think they see DK Metcalf as a unique player. There aren't many people who can do what DK Metcalf can do. He's been banged up. He's not been that productive in recent weeks. Jackson Smith and Jigba has become the top target for Seattle and for Geno Smith. That said, they're going to lose Tyler Lockett. The way that he's just not contributing at all at the minute, they ain't paying him $30 million to do that. So he'll be gone. And I think they will just replace the $30 million of Tyler Lockett with $30 million of DK Metcalf. And I think they will extend his contract. I think that's definitely going to happen. As for Geno Smith, again, I will talk about this in the week in my article when I talk about the quarterback position. I think what is most likely is that the team will go to Geno Smith and talk about an extension that is team-friendly again, that will reward Geno Smith financially, but not to the levels that some people on Seahawks Twitter seem to think he's owed. I mean, there is some craziness on there sometimes. And then it's going to be whether or not he accepts that, because there's going to be an out every single year because the guy's 35 next year. And when you get to that age and you are not, one of the top 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks in the league, teams are going to protect themselves with the aging quarterback. So if he can accept that, then he'll be back. They can lower the cap hit. He will continue to be the bridge. They'll look at the draft. They'll look at other options. If he doesn't accept that, then who knows? But I'm pretty sure that those two players are going to be pretty integral to how the Seahawks create some cap space to improve other areas of their team in the offseason. So that's what I would say about that. Okay. If there are any other, I mean, someone's put $150 million for Geno Smith in the live chat. I don't know if that's a joke or not. He ain't getting $150 million. I think the most likely scenario for him is that they will come up with a deal that is a 2-year extension with outs every year that increases his average over the course of that deal, gives him some guarantees over the next 2 years, but they can still get out of cutting him and carrying dead money, but it lowers his cap hit this year. That's it. That's it. It's not going to be a massive, this is our guy contract. They're definitely not going to do a Kirk Cousins deal. And we're seeing now why you don't do deals like that, because they're kind of stuck with him for this year and next. If you have any more super chats, stick them in. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon because, like I say, on my own, not feeling too great. Sorry, Tommy, who mentioned the talk of the 150 million deal, says that was a joke. Sorry, too many old fashions to be sarcastic successfully. Tommy, enjoy your old fashioned. However ill I may be right now, I could still down an old fashioned after watching the Seahawks play like that. So yeah, all good, all good. Seahawks victorious, very good win. Weird day in the NFL because it felt like in the 6 o'clock games, 6 o'clock my time anyway. It's like 10 a.m. for you guys. There was like nothing worth watching. Sam Darnold threw 5 touchdowns. Falcons are just so wet. They're a really weak team, and it's crazy to think that they could end up in the playoffs. Dolphins nearly cocked it up against the Jets. Jaguars Titans was awful. Saints Giants was awful. Fair play to the Panthers. They're competing every week, but they're also still losing every week. Steelers and Russell Wilson still going well. And the Buccaneers got the job done against the Ravens. That was a weird game as well. They kind of like pulled away late, but it was close for so long. It's been a weird weekend. And then just as everyone's like ready to write off the Niners, myself included, they go and smash the Bears 38 points to 13. So I think that is quite good. That's the good thing. Like, as much as I don't enjoy watching the Niners get a win, the fact that they've got a win the week before they play the Rams and actually did it quite convincingly and play quite well is a good sign. We don't have to play the Niners again. So if they can get a bit healthier and can act as a spoiler for the Rams next week, great. Go for it, Kyle. Go and find a way to go and beat the Rams. So that will be good next week. Hopefully he can do that. I imagine being a Bears fan right now. Do you have any confidence that franchise is going to appoint the right guy to replace Eberflus? Absolutely not. Tommy says, just a tip for the waiter. Thanks for the great service. Tommy, appreciate the super chat, man. Appreciate the jokes as well and the old-fashioned that you're drinking. Have one for me. Thanks, Tommy. Appreciate it, man. And thank you to everybody who's been watching. I am going to wrap this up now, I think, like I say, just so I can go and rest my voice. But a reminder that tomorrow we will have the usual Jeff Simmons stream. Always enjoy having a conversation with Jeff. The conversation with Jeff, 2 p.m. Pacific time, every Monday. If you can't watch it live and join in via the chat, then watch it back on playback. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because then you will not miss any videos. We are so close to getting up to 8,000 subscribers. Would love to get there before the end of the month. So if you've not hit subscribe, and about 40% of you watch the videos do not subscribe, bang that subscribe button, and then you won't miss any of our content. The Drew Aller draft article will be on Tuesday. And don't forget my weekly hit with Puck Sports every Wednesday as well. We're doing that this Wednesday. As usual, SeahawksDraftBlog.com for more analysis. I might go and write something for the blog now. I probably will, actually. So that will be up there very, very shortly. So check out SeahawksDraftBlog.com for that. Like the video, leave a comment in the comment section. It all helps. Until next time, 4 wins in a row for the Seahawks. Feeling good about the team. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.